These are 10 of Hollywood's biggest stars from the Golden Age who hid some of the darkest secrets in entertainment history. Behind the glamour, the fame, and the magazine covers were scandals involving abuse, mysterious deaths, and lives destroyed by the very studio system that created them. And that's where we begin, with the scandal that changed Hollywood forever. Summer of 1921, and Roscoe Arbuckle sat at the very top of the entertainment world. Paramount Pictures had just handed him an unprecedented $3 million over 3 years to star in 18 silent films, which worked out to $1 million a year, an extraordinary sum that made him one of the highest paid people in America. Labor Day weekend destroyed all of it. September 5th, 1921. A party at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco. Virginia Rapp, a 30-year-old aspiring actress, became seriously ill during the festivities and was taken to another room where a doctor examined her. She remained at the hotel for several days before being transferred to a hospital, and that's where she died on September 9th, her bladder ruptured. 5 days later, police arrested Arbuckle for rape and murder. What followed turned into a media circus unlike anything America had witnessed before. William Randolph Hearst's newspaper chain published wildly exaggerated stories about the case, and Hearst himself allegedly bragged that the Arbuckle scandal sold more newspapers than the sinking of the Lusitania. The public wanted blood. 3 separate trials followed. The first jury voted 10-2 for acquittal. The second deadlocked 9-3 for guilty. Not until the third trial did Arbuckle finally walk free, with the jury issuing something extraordinary, a written apology stating that a great injustice had been done and that not the slightest proof connected him to any crime. But here's the thing, none of that mattered. $700,000 in legal bills in 1922 money drove him straight into bankruptcy. The man earning $1 million a year had nothing left. And what most people never learned was this. The chief accuser, a woman named Maud Delmont, never testified at any of the 3 trials. Why? Police and prosecutors knew she carried a criminal record for extortion, prostitution, and blackmail. Those who actually knew Arbuckle described him as good-natured and surprisingly shy around women. The evidence pointed one way. Public opinion had already gone another. Number 9, Charlie Chaplin. By 26, Charlie Chaplin held the title of most famous man in the world. His private life revealed something far more disturbing than anything on screen. Mildred Harris was 16 years old when she told Chaplin she carried his child. October 1918 brought a hasty marriage arranged specifically to avoid scandal, and that's when the truth emerged. The pregnancy was either a false alarm or an outright trick. Wife number 2, Lita Gray, first crossed paths with Chaplin when she was 8 years old at a Hollywood cafe. By 12, she appeared in his film The Kid, playing the flirting angel. Marriage came in 1924 after she became pregnant. The wedding arranged specifically to keep Chaplin out of prison. The divorce that followed in 1927 turned vicious. Gray's legal documents accused Chaplin of infidelity, abuse, and what the papers delicately called perverted sexual desires, all of which leaked to the press. Chaplin reportedly suffered a complete nervous breakdown as the story dominated headlines and groups across America demanded his films be banned. $600,000. That's what Gray walked away with, more than $11 million in today's money, plus an additional $100,000 in trust for each child. No American court had ever awarded a larger divorce settlement. 2 more marriages followed, both to much younger women. His 4th wife, Una O'Neill, was 18 when they wed. Chaplin had turned 54. The early 1950s brought exile. The United States denied him re-entry over his political beliefs. and the man who had conquered American entertainment never returned to live in the country that made him famous. Number 8. Judy Garland. Judy Garland's story stands as perhaps the most tragic example of what the Hollywood studio system did to its young stars. 17 years old and filming The Wizard of Oz, she was already addicted to barbiturates and amphetamines. But here's where it gets worse. That addiction didn't start on set. Gerald Clark's biography reveals that Garland's own mother first gave her pills for energy and sleep when Judy hadn't yet turned 10. Garland's own words for her mother: "The real Wicked Witch of the West." MGM executives obsessed over her weight. Standing just 4 feet 11.5 inches, she was reportedly called a fat little pig with pigtails by studio head Louis B. Mayer himself. The prescribed diet consisted of chicken soup, black coffee, cigarettes, and pills to suppress her appetite. Her own description of those years paints an ugly picture. Pep pills kept her and Mickey Rooney working long after exhaustion set in. Studio doctors would then take them to the hospital and knock them out with sleeping pills. 4 hours later, more pep pills, 72-hour work shifts. "Half of the time we were hanging from the ceiling," she admitted, "but it was a way of life for us." 18-hour workdays demanded pharmaceutical assistance, Benzedrine for energy, Seconal for sleep. The cycle fed on itself and destroyed her health in the process. 1950 brought her release from MGM after 15 years. A reputation for being difficult followed her everywhere, though few understood that her behavior traced directly back to an addiction forced on her as a child. June 22, 1969. A bathroom in her London home. Judy Garland, dead at 47. The coroner's finding: barbiturate poisoning, accidental overdose. The same kind of pills her mother had first given her more than 35 years earlier. Number 7. William Desmond Taylor, February 2, 1922. Police responded to a call about a natural death at a Los Angeles bungalow. Natural it was not. Officers arriving at director William Desmond Taylor's home discovered something strange. Actors, actresses, and studio executives already inside, rummaging through his belongings. Taylor lay on the living room floor with a bullet in his back. The investigation uncovered a man who didn't exist. William Desmond Taylor was a fiction. His real name, William Cunningham Dean Tanner. A wife in New York, a daughter too, both abandoned so he could reinvent himself in Hollywood. The night before his death, comedian Mabel Normand had visited him. Around 7:45 that evening, Taylor walked her to her car, and they blew kisses as her chauffeur drove away. Normand became the last person to see him alive. The murderer accepted. What investigators found afterward pointed in troubling directions. Love notes from 19-year-old actress Mary Miles Minter turned up in Taylor's home. Her nightgown sat in his bedroom. Minter had once attempted to shoot herself with the same type of gun used in the murder. Her mother, Charlotte Shelby, had previously threatened the life of another director who made a pass at her daughter. And Shelby's alibi witness received suspiciously large sums of money after Taylor's death. Despite all of this, not a single person faced prosecution. More than 100 years later, the case remains officially unsolved. Number 6. Clara Bow. Clara Bow earned the title of It Girl and claimed the #1 box office spot in America for both 1928 and 1929. 45,000 fan letters arrived in a single month at her peak. Her salary climbed from $1,700 a week to $4,000. Then her best friend burned it all down. 1930 brought betrayal. Clara Bow's personal assistant and former hairdresser, Daisy DeVoe, stole her personal correspondence and attempted blackmail. Bow called police, and DeVoe responded by going public during the trial with accusations of promiscuity, lesbianism, drug use, and worse. Tabloids ran with every salacious detail, most of it wildly exaggerated or completely fabricated. Clara Bow transformed overnight from America's sweetheart into a national joke. What the public never grasped was how fragile she'd already become. October 1929 had brought her own admission that her nerves were all shot, that she'd reached the breaking point. Reports surfaced of rows of sedative bottles lining her bedside. Her manager started calling her Crisis a Day Clara. April 1931. A sanatorium. 25 years old, and Clara Bow requested release from her Paramount contract. The studio agreed. Her career effectively ended right there. Symptoms consistent with schizophrenia plagued her later years, though the diagnosis wasn't widely recognized in that era. Marriage to actor Rex Bell in 1931 preceded her permanent retirement from acting in 1933. The It Girl, who had captivated America, became a Nevada rancher, done with Hollywood before her 30th birthday. Number 5. Jean Harlow and the Paul Byrne Mystery. 2 months. That's how long John Harlow's marriage to producer Paul Byrne lasted before he turned up dead from a gunshot wound to the head in their Beverly Hills home. What happened next should have triggered alarm bells everywhere. 2 hours passed between the discovery of Byrne's body and anyone calling police. MGM received notification first. Studio executives arrived at the house and reportedly tampered with evidence before authorities even knew a death had occurred. A suicide note lay at the scene. Dearest dear, unfortunately, this is the only way to make good the frightful wrong I have done you and to wipe out my abject humiliation. I love you. Paul. You understand that last night was only a comedy. Officials ruled it suicide. Louis B. Mayer wanted the death attributed to supposed impotence, framing Harlow as an innocent victim rather than dragging her into anything deeper. But another woman complicated everything. Dorothy Millette had lived as Byrne's common-law wife before his marriage to Harlow, and she reportedly visited him the night he died. 2 days later, her body surfaced in the Sacramento River. She jumped from a steamboat. 1990 brought a different conclusion. Film producer Samuel Marks, who had worked at MGM and arrived at the scene before police, published his findings. Byrne was murdered by Millette, and MGM covered up the crime to protect Harlow's career. Jean Harlow never spoke publicly about her husband's death. Kidney failure claimed her just 5 years later in 1937. She was 26. Number 4. Errol Flynn. 1942 found Errol Flynn at the height of his career, the swashbuckling star of The Adventures of Robin Hood, 33 years old, one of the biggest names in Hollywood. Then, 2 teenage girls accused him of statutory rape. Betty Hansen was 17, claiming Flynn seduced her at a party in September 1942 after she'd been drinking. Peggy Satterlee was 15 when she alleged Flynn invited her onto his yacht, spiked her drink with liquor, and forced himself on her. 3 counts of rape. Trial date, January 1943. The proceedings stretched 21 days. Jerry Giesler, Flynn's defense attorney retained by Warner Brothers, employed tactics that would spark outrage today. He dredged up everything he could find about the girls' past and made certain the jury comprised 9 women and only 3 men. February 6, 1943, brought the verdict after 24 hours of deliberation. Not guilty on all counts. Flynn himself offered this memorable observation: "I like my whiskey old and my women young." His autobiography appeared the year of his death, titled My Wicked, Wicked Ways. Rumors persisted that he'd originally wanted to call it In Like Me, a nod to the expression in like Flynn, that emerged from all the publicity surrounding his trial. 16 more years of filmmaking followed before his death in 1959. The trial never derailed his career. Number 3. Frances Farmer. Frances Farmer appeared in films alongside Bing Crosby and Cary Grant, a promising Hollywood actress with a problem. Her FBI file, now open to public view, documented ties to leftist political groups, marking her as a target during the Red Scare era. 1943 brought catastrophe. Her own parents had her declared mentally incompetent and committed to a series of mental institutions. March 1944 saw 2 psychiatrists testify that she was legally insane, and Western State Hospital in Washington State became her home. Conditions inside defied belief. 2,700 patients crammed into a facility designed for 2,200. A 1949 investigation revealed only 15 graduate nurses on staff when national standards required 107. May 1945 brought another commitment, and this time nearly 5 years would pass before her release. Now here's what matters most about the Frances Farmer story. For decades, a popular account claimed she'd been lobotomized. A 1978 book called Shadowland made the allegation. A 1982 film starring Jessica Lange depicted the procedure on screen. 1983 exposed the truth. During a copyright infringement lawsuit, the author of Shadowland admitted he'd fabricated the entire lobotomy story. 3 nurses who'd worked at the hospital during the 1940s confirmed Farmer never underwent the procedure. One stated directly, "I worked on all the patients who had lobotomies, and Frances Farmer never came to that ward." What is documented, according to Farmer's sister, is that in 1949, doctors were preparing to perform a lobotomy, stopped only at the last minute by the threat of legal action from the family attorney. Freedom came in 1950, followed by some television work. Death arrived in 1970. But the lobotomy myth persists to this day, repeated as fact despite the author's own confession that he invented it. Number 2. Lana Turner and the Stompanato Killing. Good Friday, April 4th, 1958. One of the most shocking crimes in Hollywood history unfolded inside Lana Turner's Beverly Hills home. Johnny Stompanato carried credentials that should have kept him far from Hollywood royalty. Former Marine, associate of the Los Angeles crime family. His relationship with Turner had lasted about a year, marked throughout by physical abuse. That evening brought Stompanato to Turner's rented home, and what followed was a violent bedroom argument. Threats poured out of him. He would kill Turner, her daughter, and her mother. Witnesses described gangster threats to break Turner's bones and slash her face with a straight razor. 14-year-old Cheryl Crane heard the fighting. She ran to the kitchen, grabbed an 8-inch carving knife, and returned to defend her mother. What happened next remains disputed even today. Turner and Crane's account held that when Stompanato emerged from the bedroom, Cheryl stabbed him in the stomach. He collapsed. He died. April 11th brought a coroner's inquest and a ruling of justifiable homicide. Cheryl Crane walked away exonerated of any wrongdoing, but conspiracy theories emerged immediately. A wrongful death lawsuit filed by Stompanato's ex-wife implied that Turner herself had stabbed him, and her daughter took the blame. The amended complaint stated directly that the plaintiff couldn't determine whether Cheryl Crane or Lana Turner did the actual stabbing. $20,000 settled the suit out of court in 1962. 2007 brought recognition from Time magazine, which named the Stompanato case one of the most notorious crimes of the 20th century. Number 1. Ramon Novarro. Ramon Novarro played the original Ben-Hur, one of the biggest stars silent film ever produced. the first Latin American actor to achieve major Hollywood success. During the late 1920s, MGM positioned him as their answer to Rudolph Valentino. October 30th, 1968, the night before Halloween. Two brothers named Paul and Tom Ferguson, 22 and 17 years old, telephoned Novaro offering their services. The 69-year-old actor, who had struggled his entire life with conflicting feelings between his Catholic faith and his homosexuality, invited them to his Laurel Canyon home. That night, they beat Ramon Novaro to death. He choked on his own blood. Morning brought his personal secretary to the door. Inside, shambles, furniture overturned. Novaro's nude body, badly beaten, lay on his bed. The trial revealed the era's ugliness. Defense attorneys attacked Novaro's character directly. One told the jury that despite the actor's image as a romantic leading man, he was nothing but a queer. Then referenced the supposed felonies Novaro had committed over the years. California still criminalized homosexual acts at the time. Life sentences for both Ferguson brothers should have ended there. Instead, one served only 6 years. The other served 9. Both walked free on parole. Many believed the leniency stemmed directly from the fact that their victim was gay. Justice arrived eventually, though not through the courts. Both brothers returned to prison for unrelated crimes, serving longer sentences than they had for murder. Tom Ferguson died by suicide in 2005. Paul Ferguson was beaten to death by a fellow inmate in 2018 while serving a 60-year sentence for rape. Novaro's violent death stands today as a hate crime, demonstrating the homophobia of that era. The original Ben-Hur, one of Hollywood's first Latino superstars, deserved better than to be remembered for how he died. Conclusion. These 10 stories pull back the curtain on a Hollywood that bore no resemblance to what appeared on screen. Behind the glamour lay child exploitation, mysterious deaths, studio cover-ups, and lives shattered by scandal and prejudice. Fatty Arbuckle, ruined by accusations, later proved baseless. Judy Garland, addicted to pills before her 18th birthday by the very studio that employed her. Ramon Novaro, murdered in what amounted to a hate crime that the justice system barely acknowledged. The studio system that created these legends often destroyed them in the process. If you found this video interesting, please consider subscribing. Many more stories from Hollywood's past remain to be told.